is the best place that you've ever visited?
I've been to, thankfully, a lot of places around the world, but I think that my favorite place as of right now was in LJ, Georgia. I went there over spring break, and the view of the mountains was probably one of the most beautiful things that I had seen. It was after it was raining, and smoke was kind of just rolling off of the lower peaks, and I don't know, something about it was just really, really beautiful. We were in a very flat land in Florida, so it was a nice landscape change, and I just thought it was so relaxing and gorgeous, and I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Ooh, I love that. So you're more of a nature gal, to where you do hiking, and any kind of thing anything out of this city is something that you would be more drawn towards?
Recently, yeah, it's kind of, it's becoming a more high-stress world, so I'm very, very, I feel at peace in nature whenever I can. I'm starting to learn to be at peace with bugs as well, but I like the city for what it has to offer, but, too much of a good thing is always challenging in either direction, but yeah, I definitely enjoy being out in nature.
I love that. And then you kind of went into it's de-stressing. So what is it another thing that de-stresses you? What do you do to relax and have fun?
I compose music. I'm learning how to compose classical music, and it's a really nice way to just, I don't know, you start to get into it and you have a vision for how a piece wants to go, and then 4 hours will go by, and you just, it's a nice way to kind of turn your brain off, sink yourself into one thing, and it's very, very relaxing. And then when people get to perform it, it's incredibly rewarding. So that's definitely been a big de-stressor of mine this semester, particularly just unwinding with a piece and learning how it needs to go.
I love that. And did you know classical music is one of the best vibrational frequencies that are put out? It helps everyone and anyone.
As a classical musician, yes, absolutely. It's one of the best things that you can expose you to, whether or not you know everything about the composer or the piece. Just being around it is a really, really beautiful thing. So more people should do that because our industry is dying.
So whoever wants to be a composer or sing classical music, you can sing it. Or instruments? Is it just instruments or singing?
Instruments, singing, yeah, it's all there.
Opera?
Yes, I'm an opera singer, so
Really?
Yes, it is the best place to be. It's great, very funny, more accessible than people think. It's they're very human stories. They just happen to be told in Italian. So once you get a translation, it's oh yeah, that's happened to me before, and it's very silly and very dramatic, but it's a great way to unwind and kind of expose yourself to something new. So I'd recommend opera.
All right. That sounds like a fun idea. Well, did you know, and I hope you do, and then you pursue it, but if you play plants classical music, they actually grow better and faster?
Yeah, the plants in my room are doing very well for when I have to rehearse in my in my bedroom. So they're very happy. I can definitely attest to that.
I love that. Okay. Well, what's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Unfortunately, it's been go on my phone, but when I can overcome that, usually I just try and stay in bed for a second and breathe, kind of prepare myself for the day, because immediate input is not the best thing. So recently I've been trying to just kind of relax and take a few seconds to get some good deep breaths in before I have to jump into whatever stressful thing awaits me later in that day. So
I love that. And then for you, do you do a mindful meditation during the beginning of your day, saying oh, I'm having a great day, let's do this, let's accomplish what I want to do? Or
I actually meditate mostly before I have to perform. Positive self-talk and good positive imaging has proven to be very, very effective for performers who have a lot of anxiety. And I kind of have a lot of anxiety day to day. So a lot of my meditations I find are birthed at times of very, very high stress for me, because it kind of brings me down back to earth. I can maintain a pretty mindful energy during the day, but before a really, really big thing is the best time for me to just pause, breathe, remind myself that I'm where I need to be. And yeah, it's been pretty effective.
And you realize that this is just a moment in time.
Yeah.
And like let's say for instance, and it doesn't go as well as you want it to, you're going to be the biggest critic about it, and in a month people are not even going to remember as well as you remember what happened.
Yeah, we're only in control of the present moment. Everything outside of there is either beyond the control or outside of the control. So it can be a little bit scary, but it's also very, very comforting. There's no moment too large because we just have this one.
I love that. You seem like a very wise and inspirational person. Do you have any like message that you would want to relate to anyone?
Now you're putting me on the spot. I don't feel so wise, but I think that...
You know that guy. Have a great day.
I think that the thing that I'll steal words from my therapist who has a degree and knows what she's talking about, but something that she was talking to me about when I was expressing like worries and fears of the future was the reminder that we are the center of our universe. And I think that as we, especially in college, you know, we're so connected to other people around us, whether it's like through our phones or like social gatherings, things like that, we kind of have this feeling that we need to be on and we need to be performing like this best version of ourselves. And something that she, like some advice that she imparted onto me is that despite all of it, we are the center of our universe. And when the center of the universe is out of alignment, everything else that we touch that like has a gravitational effect on us is also out of alignment. So putting yourself first and prioritizing your own needs is not a selfish thing to do. You know, being able to say no is not selfish, but it's actually the best thing for you, and it's the best thing for people around you, because when you prioritize yourself and you are a like source of harmony and light, it spreads to everyone else. But when you're out of whack and you're out of balance, it's really, really hard to like impart good energy onto other people because you don't have any for yourself. So allowing yourself to be put first is a really beautiful thing, and it should be prioritized, because whatever like good feelings and images and mindfulness you're able to cultivate within yourself kind of just naturally spreads to other people, whether you mean to or not. And you know, what's better than that?
Absolutely. I love that. It's like the energy that you are putting off is going to just, regardless of you talking to them, everyone else is going to feel it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love the fact that if you love yourself and you know that you're going to be in a good headspace, then you can actually now bring other people up.
Yeah.
It's like what you're saying is if you're down, it's just going to keep bringing everyone else down. I love that. I feel like you'd like this question.
All right.
If you could live any time period, which time period would you live in?
Oh, the 70s. Easy.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, I have I have a haircut that is not for 2024. But yeah, I love what the 70s represented. I mean, it was a very like tumultuous time for America, especially. But I liked that society, and especially like, you know, counterculture and like, you know, hippie culture or whatever, was able to take the best things that had come before it, like the idea of equality and living a more simplified life and having a more clarified view of the world that wasn't colored by like our perpetuating sense of like individualism, that's more like a community feel. And I don't know, I think there was something really, really beautiful about that, especially because it existed in a time that was very, very violent and tumultuous. But I think there was something really great about the movement of the 70s that represented like a changing of a lot of prejudiced views that had come in the decades before that, meaningful legislation for people of color, women, queer people, like those kind of issues taking the spotlight in a way that would actually create change later. It's a tragedy that the ERA did not pass, but that's an issue for another time.
What's the ERA?
The Equal Rights Amendment. It was brought about basically as but like the SparkNotes version is that it was a political response to like decades of oppression that women in America specifically had been facing, and it guaranteed a sense of equal rights and opportunity regardless of sex. And it was a good movement because of what it represented. And the fact that it didn't pass was, I think, a reflection of the culture at the time. But the fact that it existed and created a foundation for like modern feminism and for the opportunities that we have today is really important. So long story short, I would love to have lived in the 70s. It would have been very cool to be at the kind of crest of that wave of equality. And we have a lot of opportunities now, but it's a different landscape. It's harder to make your opinions known when very like prejudiced and unfortunate people have huge platforms and have such a hold, but it matters just as much now as it did then that we hold fast to our views and we actively participate in making this world a kinder place. So
I absolutely love that answer. See, now I feel like you would have went to Woodstock.
yes.
It's 69, it's not the 70s.
Yeah.
But I feel like you definitely would have been the person to actually spread kindness, and not the idea of the drug movement kind of ruined it for me, in my opinion, because they've misused psychedelics. And if they wouldn't have done that, then nowadays people would be helped with, we would have had, 50 more years of knowledge and experience with psychedelics to know, like with anxiety, depression, PTSD, like all the things that we could have done, but all the things that they were doing were for like the peace, love, and the movement of everyone trying to be together, but they were kind of like misusing it in that concept. And if they would have had the 300 or 500,000 people that were there just in harmony, singing and actually having fun and not just taking drugs, I think that would have been a even better thing. So I kind of want to make a Woodstock 4.
Yeah, I understand the argument against like drug use of that time. I do think that with the current knowledge that we have now about like expanding what defines anxiety, depression, other like clinically diagnosed diseases, I think that does open the gate for more people to be falling under that umbrella. And, the state of capitalism as it exists in the United States is a big, I think, contributor to the state of individual people. I think that the drug movement was kind of inevitable, in the wake of like the 60s and the 70s, and it certainly had its place and worked to expand people's minds. But it's easy, I think, to view those kind of happenings and those kind of movements through like the lens that we have now, which is, more research, more understanding of how it affects us long term. But, peace and love. Like, people should be able to make those own choices without it being excessively criminalized. So a different can of worms to open. But.
Absolutely. Because I mean, like, personally, all you need to do is like breath work, meditation, yoga, and those things can all make you, quote unquote, like higher consciousness, or that tripping feeling that people want. Like,
breaks down the ego.
Yeah, it's a natural thing. Like, it'll just bring the liquid from your spine to your pineal gland and release dimethyltryptamine. And that's better than taking a random blot of acid and not knowing what to do, especially the environment that you're in. It definitely influences what you do. And
yeah, it can change the environment of the trip, definitely colors your experience. But yeah, I think that overall the work to break down the ego and to kind of eliminate that sense of self that keeps us divided from others is the ultimate work. And there are many different avenues to get there, but getting to a place where we are not so wrapped up in ourselves in the way that is unproductive for dealing with other people. That's a good goal to work for.
It's like, don't be self-conscious on how you feel or what anyone else says about you.
Yeah.
Solely for the fact of they're in their mind as well as you're in your mind. So go out there, talk to the people that you want to talk to, say what you want to say if it's a positive thing, and however they react is not really relevant to what you're going to do with your life.
Yeah. Being at peace, understanding that people have different views and respecting them for the most part. A few views I can't get behind, but for the most part, I think there is always respect and love to be found. And the more that we're able to avoid arguments and instead approach them as different discussions,
conversation.
It's very, very valuable, because all you have to do is look to the political system right now. There's not a lot of listening. There's a lot of antagonistic and aggravation driven conversations that really don't benefit many people. So
it's just random conversations that aren't helping with nature. Like, there's mushrooms, a species that nobody knows about, there's plant species that nobody knows about that could further the expansion of human understanding or stop with neurogenesis, like lion's mane, stuff like that, or like turkey tails help eliminate breast tumors. So there's things that can help with humanity, and it's not the fact of putting this person down because, I read the textbook and it said this exact line, so I'm going to regurgitate that information. And if you didn't know that, now you look stupid. And it's just putting everyone down. That's something that we shouldn't be going into. We should be going into like a naturalist, trying to understand science, mathematics, engineering, and kind of just like life itself. Because we don't really know anything.
No, that is very true. I think achieving harmony and looking to many different worldviews is beneficial because you don't know what you don't know, and ignorance, close to 99% of the time isn't a choice that people make. It's a choice that they didn't have, and by opening up conversations and allowing integration of knowledge, it does, I think, create a much more balanced worldview, and it allows people the individual choice to form their own opinions rather than just regurgitating what's been told to them. So the more flow of information, the more opportunity we have to discover new things and not be abridged in what is necessary for us to know versus what's not is really, really beneficial.
Do you think it's more important to have your own moments in time / experiences rather than having the idea that, oh, I've read all these books, so I'm going to use that information than your own knowledge that you've learned from?
Yeah, I think that applying things that you've learned into your personal experience is the best way to form your own opinions. I think that there is absolutely benefit in doing your research and finding out what types of opinions you agree with versus not. But it's even more important to put those opinions into practice, especially with people who might not necessarily agree with you, because oftentimes having a conversation with someone who doesn't necessarily hold the same worldview as you allows you to kind of find, maybe gaps in your own logic, or have an opportunity to share your own opinions with people. And it does help to increase the overall knowingness of the conversation, because there's a lot that we can learn from people who disagree with us. And it's important to consider all perspectives when we're holding fast to an opinion, because sometimes that feeling or need to be right can outweigh valid opinions and valid arguments or criticisms from other people. So, remaining humble and in taking information is very challenging, but it allows you to inform your opinions and make good decisions for yourself. And a lot of times it also just helps to accept other people, even when you don't agree with them, because, fighting ignorance with aggression and violence usually doesn't change much, but accepting people with love can allow for a conversation.
Yeah, you just want to see another person's viewpoint.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is kind of the reasons why I do interviews, because of people like you that actually have their intellectual thoughts all comprised into where they can have a great conversation like this. So thank you so much for being a part of the interview.
Of course. It was great to meet you.